Hello and welcome to Childless Island Disc with Andrew Fletcher. And today I'm talking to Nicci Fletcher, who, yes, is my wife and also the inspiration behind the Childless Not By Choice magazine. Anyway, welcome, Nicci.
Thank you, Andrew.
Now, if anybody has been on the Childless Hour Twitter chat, then you'll know that we do have a little bit of toing and froing between the two of us. So if that happens in this, those of you that know us will fully understand why. Anyway, so tell me about why you decided to start the Childless Not By Choice magazine to begin with, and then we'll go on to your choices.
Okay, well, mainly it was the fact that I had a mad idea at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is the usual time I have mad ideas. And we were in the middle of World Childless Week. I think it was Wednesday night going into Thursday. That is Duval, and if any of you have watched previous videos of us, you will know that one of our dogs sings. Hopefully he won't get too bad and too vocal during this. So yes, where was I? It was probably the Wednesday or the Thursday of World Childless Week. And I'd been wondering how we could continue to build on the buzz, the support, the sense of community that World Childless Week was starting to develop throughout the rest of the year. And I'd always wanted to run a magazine. I love writing. I was a contributor, a regular contributor to the writing magazine several years ago, and I loved that. But it had never been the right time. I was too sort of scared. It was too far outside my comfort zone. Didn't know what to produce a magazine about. And I also didn't think I had enough content for myself or enough contacts to make producing the content sort of relatively easy, but also have a variety of contributors. And then so that all changed during World Childless Week. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and thought, I wonder. One of the things I wanted to check was whether you could do video in the Flipbook software I wanted to use. And when I woke up again at 9 o'clock in the morning or earlier, I realised that you could. So I then went online, told Andrew, you, about it, said, darling, we are creating a magazine, we're starting a magazine. We can use video in it, it'll be online, I've got the domain name, shall I buy it? And you went, oh, okay then.
Pretty much, yes. Yes, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, hasn't it?
Yes, yes, thank you. It's been a roller coaster for you as well, Duval. I know.
It has, yes. Anyway, let's start with the actual Island Discs. Now, your first piece of music is Pachelbel's Canon in D. Why?
Well, it's for a number of reasons. It's a piece of music I love. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music which has ever been composed. It's sort of 3.5 minutes of heaven, I suppose. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've loved it for many years. I think it was a favourite of my father's, but I can't be sure about that. However, when I was sort of 16, I asked my mother for a CD of it, and she got me a compilation which it was on. And since then, I've really been buying loads of versions of it, which I love. Much easier now that we've got YouTube. And yeah, my love of it just sort of continued to build from there. And then when I was on honeymoon with my first husband, Ian, my father became seriously ill, and we phoned up to see how he was one day, and we had found out that he died. We went back to the car, sat in silence for a few minutes, then decided to drive on somewhere and get a cup of coffee or something. And the radio came on automatically as we started the car, and it was playing Pachelbel's Canon. And we also, as you probably remember, had
Indeed.
it at our wedding. So I walked down the aisle to Pachelbel's Canon, which was it's a beautiful piece of music. It's often used in weddings, but also it was a little bit of having my dad there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was good, and I would like to point out at this point that she was on time, to the point that there was very little hanging around or time to collect myself as I got to the front of the church, and I was told she's here. Oh, okay.
Basically, what Andrew means is that he didn't have time to go and have a glass or two of Dutch courage before the ceremony. And the vicar sort of came rushing out to say, hang on a minute, you're too early, Nicci, please wait.
Something to that effect, yes. Anyway, your next piece, and what's that going to be?
My next piece is called Can't Take My Eyes Off You. It's by Frankie Valli, and sometimes people call it I Love You Baby. And it's the music that we chose for our first dance at our wedding reception.
Indeed. Now, I will admit that Nicci and I were talking this morning as we went shopping, and I was saying, well, I know you chose it because it was our first dance at our reception. And she said, no, it was the first dance we ever danced to. And I sort of went, okay. And she said, yes, it was at this ball. And I went, well, it can't have been, because we certainly danced before then by about 2 months.
Yeah, so I've got my social balls muddled up, which is not something that we do very often nowadays, because we don't go to those sorts of functions. But in those days, when Andrew was an officer in the army, we used to go to quite a few functions. And at this particular one, we had only been courting, I suppose, dating for a few months. We went along to this ball. It was the first dance that we danced together. And we hadn't actually said, I think, the L word by that stage.
No.
I certainly knew that Andrew was going to be a very important part in my life for the rest of my life, although I wasn't 100% sure whether that was going to be marriage. I thought it was going to be. And basically, we danced to it whilst looking into each other's eyes, singing the words to each other.
Yes.
Not a lot else we can say about that.
Not really, no.
We should, however, at this point say that it wasn't our first choice of music for our first dance at the wedding reception, because the band refused to learn to play our first choice, which was I Love My Dog As Much As I Love You
by Cat Stevens. Yes, and they refused to learn that one, but they knew the other one, so that was fine.
Yes. And we're very happy with that choice.
Yeah. Anyway, films next, and your first film is Deja Vu with Denzel.
Yes, Denzel Washington. Be Still My Beating Heart. Yes, adore a little bit of Denzel. If people don't know or haven't heard of Deja Vu before, it's a film that we've watched on a number of occasions, and it's the type of film that you can watch on multiple occasions, because each time you watch it, you see a little bit more, or you understand a little bit more. And the whole idea is that Denzel Washington is investigating a crime scene, and he is approached by people who can sort of bend time. And you watch the film and you suddenly start to realise that he's been there before. He's been trying to solve the crime, find out who done it, at least once before. And then when you watch it again, you go, oh, perhaps it's more than once. And it's a brilliant film. I get goosebumps every time I watch it. And it is a film that you can watch time and time and time again, because, as I say, each time you watch it, you see, perhaps he was here at this point, perhaps he was here at this point. And I'm fascinated by the idea of time travel, time slippage, if you like.
Indeed. There are a number of books which are in the bucket list to be written, which are about time slip.
Yes, I've certainly got one very detailed plot line worked out for. I think it's going to end up being a trilogy of books, which is a time slip novel. So I'm fascinated by the concept of being able to move through time and the implications that has.
Excellent. Now, your second film. Now, is it just the one, or is it the box set?
Oh, no, it's the box set, most definitely.
The box set. And that is Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously, with Johnny, Kira, and Orlando.
Yeah, so I wasn't quite sure what to choose for my next film, because there are so many good films. However, I thought I really ought to choose Pirates of the Caribbean because part of the films have been filmed on the island that Andrew and I are going to be living on in the future. And in fact, on one occasion when we visited the island for a holiday, it's called Great Exuma, we couldn't stay the whole time in the house that we normally rent because it had been taken over by the monkey and the monkey trainer. We've discovered that I'm more attractive than Keira Knightley at 6 o'clock in the morning because Indeed. I had makeup on at the airport and she didn't. And I think I probably got a better night's sleep than she had as well. However, my biggest claim to fame about Pirates of the Caribbean and being on Great Exuma is that we were at the Two Turtles bar one evening, and I got up to go to the ladies' toilet, and Orlando Bloom followed me in, not realising it was the ladies' toilet, but he'd mistaken it. And he was really rather shocked when he saw me turn around, and he went, "Oh!" because he was in the wrong facilities.
Indeed. He certainly was. Yes, and it is a very nice part of the world. And yes, if you've seen the three-way sword fight and the meeting on the spit of sand, that's where we're going to live, hopefully, all things being equal.
Didn't you, on one of our holidays, didn't you go fishing off that spit of land?
Yes.
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 Oh, I thought you had. Yeah. And that is, I can't remember which film that is in.
That's the third one.
It's the third one. Yeah. And is that bit? That's where they end up continuing the sword fight after the one in the mill wheel, isn't it? They go down the hill.
No, that's not the same beach. That beach is to the south of Little Exuma. Anyway, the spits of land are all in the Bahamas, and it was a nice bit of cutting between the mill wheel and the beach because they happen to be about 1,000 miles apart, maybe slightly less, maybe 500. One's in Dominica and the other's in the Bahamas. So it would be very, very interesting to get a what's it wheel to go that far across the sea with everybody fighting in it. But anyway, that's Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, your books. Now, I can understand the first one. Your first choice is obviously, again, I don't know why everybody cheats in this. It's really, I suppose it's going to become a feature. It's how do you cheat at all these things? But it's the complete works of Jane Austen.
Yes.
Now, I can understand the Pride and Prejudice because I happen to know that that's one of your favourites, and indeed is one of the most read books in English literature. But are there any others that, or is it all of them that grip you as such?
I do definitely have favourites, and Pride and Prejudice is definitely my favourite. I also adore Sense and Sensibility and Emma. I'm not so keen on Mansfield Park and Persuasion. I think one of the problems I have with Persuasion is that I did that, I can't remember whether it was O-level or A-level, and the whole of my class used to think it was hysterically funny that somebody should trip over slightly and hurt themselves so much, which happens to the main character in Persuasion on, I think that was at Lyme Regis on the Cobb, she hurt herself. So I have sort of, if you like, mixed feelings about Persuasion, because everybody thought that was so hysterically funny that she should sort of swoon, and it should be such a sort of a major incident, if you like. I wanted to have the complete works though, because I love some of the books so much, and I really love having a physical book to read. I probably read Pride and Prejudice maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years, and it needs to be a physical book. And reading the book is like wrapping myself in a well-loved blanket.
Yeah, I can understand the physical books. There was that little blip a couple of years ago when e-books or e-publications were going to take over the world, but it seems as though the physical book is now coming back with a vengeance.
Yay!
Now, your next one may be a little bit strange to some of our listeners, and that is the Oxford Rhyming Dictionary.
Yes, now that might, as you say, seem a little bit strange. It may well become clearer why I chose it when you know what my luxuries are. So all I can really say at the moment is the fact that I do love writing poetry. I write quite a lot of it, and having a rhyming dictionary is really useful. And the other thing is that I'm slightly dyslexic, so even though it's a rhyming dictionary, so it doesn't have any definitions in it, it's actually quite useful for me to have so that I can check the spellings of words. Because if I don't know the exact spelling of something, I can always look up something which rhymes with that word and look up that instead. So I get to the correct spelling eventually. And I have been known to spend sort of several hours poring over the rhyming dictionary, looking at things, because I just find it so fascinating. And how on earth they compile it, it's just because it's all about, you look up a main word and there's not a very long list of those words, and then it will tell you that you need to go to 5.7.17.22, and you have to find that exact section in the main body of the book to be able to find your words. It's fascinating.
Is that a star date?
It could well be.
Anyway, let's move on to your luxuries, should we say. And again, more cheating. Your first luxury.
My first luxury is an infinite amount of paper and pencils, so that I can write my poetry, so I can write my 2 time slip novels, including one novel which is actually a trilogy, maybe even in 4 parts, like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and so that I can start writing some of the other 42 book ideas I have on my writing bucket list.
And the desert island would be an ideal place, as there's nothing to distract you.
Nothing to distract me, apart from obviously surviving.
Minor technical issue.
But yes, at other times, lots of time to write, which would be wonderful.
And your next big cheat.
I have to say I was inspired by Stephanie Phillips and the TARDIS with this one. And I thought there must be something that I can do, which is sort of along those lines. Yes, my next big cheat is the fact that I have access to the internet.
Yes, there'll have to be some very big provisos on what you can do on the internet.
Like what?
Well, perhaps read only. That you cannot call for help to get off your island.
Okay.
And such like. I will think on what provisos need to be put into your internet browsing ability. Yes.
Can the read only have an exclusion so I can still take part in Childless Hour on Twitter once a week?
Okay.
As long as nobody knows what my location is or that I'm on an island and I need rescuing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. Now, the reason for choosing the internet is the fact that although I do love physical books, I decided that I'm going to have quite a lot of time on my hands. So the ability to be able to do the research for some of the books that I want to write would be brilliant. I could also learn lots of different languages. I could watch YouTube videos on how to build shelters, how to capture rainwater, how to, I don't know, shell fish, cook crabs, all sorts of things I could learn, which would make my survival easier. So I don't mind the fact that I wouldn't be able to summon help if I'm allowed to do all of those sorts of things.
Okay.
Are you sure about that?
Well, if you hadn't noticed that when it comes to my wife, I am a little bit of a pushover. So, yes, you can have that. Anyway.
He's a pushover until he stamps his feet and says no. And I know he really means it when he calls me by my full name.
Indeed.
I know I pushed it too far.
And it gets even worse when she is called by my other wives' names.
Yes, I knew I was in big trouble when you said, do not do that, Alison.
Indeed.
Oops. I've obviously pushed that a little bit too far.
Anyway, enough of us having our little bit of banter. Thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you to Nicci for doing this.
Thank you very much for inviting me, although I'm not 100% sure that you had too much choice in the matter.
None whatsoever. Anyway, thank you all for listening. It's Andrew Fletcher at the Childless Not by Choice magazine saying bye-bye.